Hello, welcome back to another video on nostalgia versus reality. I switched my camera from one side of my desk to the other one just to give you a slightly different view. Still bland, yeah? Anyhow, I have three treasuries there on top of my window, just as I have three on up over the other window that you can see from any angles. Um, Nostalgia versus reality. But first, remember Kappa? Remember how crazy that was a few months back when so many people freak out regardless. Regardless if Kappa and YouTube was all about collecting data and regardless of the outcome where it was a non-issue for just about everybody, right? Doesn't matter if you do toys, video games or comic books, it's a whole lot of nothing, right? It's more about data collecting, okay? And as long as YouTube don't collect and abide by the rule, it's not really a big issue for creators, right? But let's go back to nostalgia. All of us, well, many of us that have been in this hobby for multiple decades, likely collected or started to collect when we were preteen, right? People that collect in their 60s and 70s, many people in this community, you were in your preteen and then you continue to collect through your teen years, and some people never quit. But this hobby from the 30s all the way through the 80s was geared toward a younger audience. Sure, many things start to change in the 60s, okay? In the 60s, with the advent of Marvel and the Marvel age, there's a shift. There's a lot of teenage, college, even GI. I remember reading a lot of Silver Age books where I would read the letter page and see some fan letter from GI that's based, at least one letter was based in Vietnam, yeah, where I came from in the 60s. So the readership has shifted slowly in the 60s all the way through the 80s. By the time I started to collect in 1981, I seen adults in the LCS. By adults, I mean people in their 30s, okay? The guy behind the counter was in his early 30s, if not late 20s. I was in my mid-teens. Sure, I see that's the age range that I saw in the LCS back in those early years. Teens through early 30s. Could there have been people in their 40s? Maybe, but I certainly don't remember seeing any gray hair guys in the LCS in those early years. But that was a makeup of the collectors, the readership, okay? And because of that, many of us equate this hobby or connect this hobby with kids, children, and that kind of trickle into the fear and worry with Kappa, even though it's a whole lot of nothing. Thankfully, I was one of those few channels that trying to shine in some common sense there, regardless of how not useful that was from me. But as the hobby shifted over the last 30 years, yeah, 30 years since the 90s, surely the readership has changed significantly, okay? The bulk of the comic book that are produced are really not for kids. There are still some, yes. I'm not saying that every single title is for adults. I bought Plants vs. Zombies for my son a few years back when he was playing the game, and he actually enjoyed it. I actually bought a couple of issues, and he flipped through and read all of them and enjoyed them. So put the books, the right books, that's a key. The right books in the right hands and kids will enjoy it, okay? And that's the sad part about this hobby, is that is that the hobby has shifted away from children. And I already talked about this issue so many times on my channel. It is what it is. The market is not going to listen to me. Okay, it's not going to try to go back and try to address a forgotten market. But the reality is that's what we have. This market is not about trying to sell to the 8-year-old or 9 or 10 or 12 or 15. It's not. This market is focused more on the speculative market, the addicts, the adult addicts that can't stop buying even though they don't read anymore. And there are some readers still. Yes, there are still people that enjoy comic books. I'm not saying that everybody that buy comic books are in it for the variant covers and the hot flip and all that stuff. I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that part of the hobby has become a bigger part of the modern market, more so than people that just buy to enjoy and read. Okay, and that's the reality. It's not. It's no longer for kids. You know, it's something that us older collectors with nostalgia eyes, we think that this stuff is made for kids, even though it's always make me chuckle when I see a collector or a reader complain that the older books are goofy, not all that good. Well, guess what? The books that was produced in the 30s all the way through the 60s, were they designed for 50 or 45-year-old men? So why would you think reading a book that was produced in the 40s is gonna be enlightening or interesting today for people my age? Okay, so it's always silly to hear commentaries like that when people say, oh, have you ever read those Golden Age books? They are not very good. They're kind of goofy. They were designed for kids. And that's this episode. The reality is books today are not made for kids. Bye-bye.